a dying art in a way, because people's brain is just so transformed to listening to really, really short stuff, right? So if you like the long form stuff, certainly would love to hear. Hello, Bretto. How are you, mate? All right, I'm going to take a drink and we're going to rip into this. All right, guys. I think we're good to go. Let's do this on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you are sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that I think is probably going to hit you busy parents square between the eyes in a good way, right? I want to talk about the 4 types of stuck parents. If you're part of our academy and you're watching our stuff, you know that we don't talk to 20-year-olds. They're great. I was 20 once, a long time ago. Our main target person is that mum and dad that is really just struggling to get their fitness journey started again. Now, before you roll your eyes and think that this is going to be another like personality test or something like that, this isn't woo-woo shit. This isn't horoscopes. This isn't some fancy psychological model. We've coached over 3,000 busy parents now in Better Body Academy, and these are the patterns that I see every single day. We run numerous coaching calls, as you guys know, over the course of a week, and we see the same things over and over a day. The patterns that keep good people stuck. And it's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're doing the wrong thing in their life. It's just that right now, living as a really busy parent, it's hard to know what to do to balance both your journey and everything else that's going on in your world, right? And you're failing oftentimes because you're running on a pattern that used to work when you were 20 years old, but it doesn't work anymore. Because unfortunately, you are not 20 and neither am I. I'm 43, right? So we're leveling here. Now, here's the cool part. Once you know which one of these 4 types you are, you can actually break the pattern. You can find momentum instead of constantly starting and stopping. Like, who's that a problem for? Let me know in the comments. If that's you, I start and stop, I start and stop, I start and stop, and I just cannot keep going. Today, I want you to listen without judgment. Maybe get a bit curious. You're going to hear yourself in at least one of these, or maybe your former self. Maybe you have been able to make some changes, and it's because you broke this pattern that we're going to show you here. And when you do, that's when everyone changes. So I'm going to go through the 4 different types of parents, and I want you to be thinking, which one of these am I? Parent type 1, the all or nothing parent. The all or nothing parent. They have this catch cry, which is like, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. They say to us on our kickoff calls, they say, just so you know, Jace, I'm an all or nothing person. I always say, like, how's that working for you? Let's start. This is the crowd favorite. It's probably the most relatable one. This person, this parent has just 2 speeds: flat out, flat stick, or flat broken. There is no middle ground. There's nothing. They start Monday like a bloody Navy SEAL. Chicken and broccoli, gym sessions, 10,000 steps, no sugar, no booze. Their entire personality is, I'm all in on this challenge. But then Thursday rolls around, work meeting blows out, kids get sick, partner needs help, dinner's a bit off the plan, and boom, screw it, fuck it, I'm done. I've ruined the week. You will know the pattern if that's you. And here's the kicker. You didn't ruin the week. You just weren't perfect. And you couldn't cope not being perfect. The person that has the best intentions but stays stuck is this all or nothing person. Because their strategy relies on some perfection which doesn't exist, especially when you got kids and a job and stress and a million responsibilities. Why is it that the all or nothing parent stays stuck? It's because their standard, the bar they're trying to set for themselves, is impossible to hit. And so when the standard is impossible to hit, quitting becomes like, of course you're going to quit. How many of you know that this is you? Of course I was going to quit because the standard I was trying to set was perhaps me when I was an athlete at 18 years old. If this is you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So how do you actually fix this one? If this is you and you resonate with this, you adopt what I call the 55% mindset. It's a very simple idea. 55%. If you can hit your habits, the good things, the goals that you're trying to achieve, if you can hit them 55% of the time, every week, it's got to be done every week, consistently, you will transform your body. It's just the majority by a little bit. Not perfect, not flawless, just more often than not. This mentality changes everything. You stop quitting, you stop restarting again and again, you stop punishing yourself for not being perfect, you actually build momentum. And because progress comes from consistency and not perfection. Now, if you're the all or nothing parent, what do you need to do? Like, what is the biggest shift that you can make? The biggest shift is simply lowering the bar and raising the consistency. Does that make sense? So if you can't keep up 10,000, if hitting 10,000 steps for you is so far of a stretch that you're just like, man, that took my all to get that today. You know what? Just lower it to 5,000 steps. If you're only doing 2,000 steps a day, lower it to 5,000 steps, and trying to be consistent at 5,000 steps is going to help you feel like you are winning so that you can build consistency before you try to be intense about it. You're not the perfect partner. Sorry, neither am I. You're not the perfect parent. Neither am I. You're not the perfect employee or boss. Why on earth do you think that you need to be perfect in order to see progress or to be able to see good results? If you want to be 5% body fat and the strongest guy, girl around, yeah, you probably need to be perfect. But you and I are not that. That's not what we're going for. We're wanting to feel a bit better, and perfection's getting in the way of you just getting great results. Parent number 2. This is the overwhelmed achiever. Okay, the overwhelmed achiever. They have this catch cry that's like, I'm successful at everything except my health. So let's talk about the overwhelmed achiever. This one's sneaky because from the outside, it looks like this person's completely got their life together, right? Maybe they run a business, maybe they manage a team, maybe they've got great careers. They're the one that's often the reliable one in every facet of life. But on the inside, they are absolutely cooked. If that's you, let us know in the comments. And if I am brutally honest, like vulnerably, transparently honest, I have these qualities absolutely. Absolutely. I personally run a fine line between being productive and going to burnout. Why? Because I just love what I do so much that sometimes I sacrifice my sleep or sacrifice my mental health in the pursuit of what I'm doing. And I know it. So this isn't a I'm better than you thing at all. The thing the overwhelmed achiever does is they sacrifice first, and every single time it's their own health that usually falls off. It's not the job, it's not the family, it's their health. It's almost like we're pulling the health plug out of the socket. This is where personally I stop short. Even though I can get into this overwhelmed achiever mode, I pulled that out. I never get to the point where the fitness goes away, because I've realized that for me, the plug is the actual health. The plug is the fitness that allows me to do all these other things. If I let that plug out, the whole system crashes. I have all the stress. I have all the priorities, but health is number one. This person who's the overwhelmed achiever is always saying things like, I just need things to calm down a bit. I just need things to calm down. I just need to get in a routine, and when things settle, right? I'll start in January. I'll start after the new year. So I can't wait for the end of the new year so I can just start fresh. There's just so much on now. Here's the truth. Things are never going to settle. Life is never going to settle. If you're a busy parent, like the commitment doesn't end when they turn 15. And if you're waiting to feel ready, that is why you are still stuck 3, 5, 10 years later. Overwhelmed achievers don't lack discipline, they lack systems. They're used to succeeding in all of the environments where the structures are already set up at work, in family, but their health, there's no structure. It's all reactive because the health is being put around everything else and everyone else. If this is you, here is the fix. You need to shift from, I'll do this when I feel motivated, up until I'm going to turn this into an automation, a system. It's not hype. It's not getting pumped. It's not, I'll smash it today. None of this like I'm smashing it today. You need defaults. You need things that you will do. Default meals. Remember, if you're the overwhelmed achiever, the fitness keeps dropping down the order. You need default meals. You need default breakfasts. You need default snacks. You need default workouts. What are your defaults? What's your default go-to breakfast that you do on repeat that you don't have to think about because it's automated? I literally eat the same thing every day pretty much for 6 to 12 months on end. I find something is healthy and then I automate it. Why? Because I don't need to get my enjoyment and expression of fun through food. I'll treat myself on the weekend to an indulgence or something like no problems at all. But I want to see my food as fuel, and I want to automate that so it's easy and I don't have to think about it because I'm too busy. And I'm guessing you are too busy. Once you systemize, your health becomes easy because it doesn't depend on other people. And that means you get your time back to commit to the two big time drains, work and family, right? Work and family, they're the two big time drains. They involve other people. So what you've got to do is automate the thing that is easy, eating and training to a simple plan. Okay, type 3. I call this the invisible martyr, right? Their catch cry is, everyone else comes first and I'm dead last. If that's you, usually this is a female trait. Men aren't usually as strong with this one, usually. The invisible martyr is going to trigger a lot of you. Is usually a mum or dad who is genuinely kind, caring, selfless, but they take it too far. They make the kids breakfast, but not their own. They run around organizing everyone else's life, but their needs don't even make the list. If that's you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They apologize or feel guilty for taking time for themselves. They feel guilty when they're resting. They refuse help. No, I'll do it. That's okay. I'll do it. You do your thing. You're more important than me. They're exhausted and they somehow believe that that makes them a better parent. This person is running on fumes. And here's the truth. As a busy parent, and I know this firsthand, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Your kids don't need a martyr. They don't need you to sacrifice for them. They need a role model. And if they see in you martyrdom, self-sacrifice constantly, what do you think you are demonstrating to them? You're teaching them that the only way to be healthy is if you don't self-sacrifice, which is just not true. If you're constantly tired, frustrated, short-tempered, low energy, that's not good parenting. That's survival mode. And again, I know this can be a little bit triggering. This is really, really hard, by the way, I will acknowledge, as a single parent, like super difficult. But once you get out of this pattern, you realize how toxic the pattern actually is. And to those of you that have got out of it and seen your kids come with you as a consequence, it's the best thing in the world. The invisible martyr stays stuck because they've attached their self-worth to sacrifice rather than taking care of themselves. They believe, if I'm not suffering, I'm not doing enough. You feel me? Mandy Williams in the comments. This is me. Mandy, stop it. Stop it. The opposite is true. Looking after yourself is looking after your family. Feeling good is good parenting. Having energy is being present. How often are we guilty as parents? And I'm no different, again, of like, we're so tired because we've filled everyone else's cup that when we get home, all the kids want to do is just play with us, but we're not actually there. I'm very guilty of this, and I'm very conscious of it, of being with my kids, particularly on the weekends when my beautiful wife is working and I've got the responsibility of taking care of them. I'm taking them to the park and I'm pushing them on the swing and they're having the best time, and I'm thinking of something completely different. Now, is that a bad thing? Maybe not in that specific moment, but man, when you catch yourself in that pattern and you actually then become present again, oh, fuck, it's a good feeling to actually just be truly there with your kids. So what's the fix for this invisible martyr parent? You got to start stupidly small. Mandy, you have to start stupidly small. What does that mean? At the core, you're sitting there going like, I shouldn't be spending any more time, money, whatever the vessels are, on myself. So if you go and then try to dedicate 3-hour workouts, that's not going to work. You start with a 10-minute workout. You have 5 minutes outside to yourself. You try to cook a high-protein breakfast. You don't just nibble off your kid's plate for lunch. You cook your own lunch, set your own lunch. You put in place one boundary this week, one boundary next week. Once you get consistent, these tiny wins start to rebuild the identity of someone who deserves to feel good, someone who's got a good self-image. Does this make sense? The most important thing, if this is you, if this is your type, is that you got to take it slow on yourself. So you gradually desensitize to the idea that making you a priority is a problem. It's not a problem, and it's not sacrificial to everyone else. It's indeed the opposite. And once that clicks, everything changes. The final parenting style that we have, the parent that's stuck, is parent number 4. This is the weekend hero. I'm going to give you the catch cry. I'm good all week, but the weekend buries me. This one is probably, with the first one, the all or nothing parent, probably shows up for 80% of parents. Monday to Friday, angelic. Meal prep, 10,000 steps a day, workouts, protein, steps, water, ticking boxes, smashing it. But Saturday hits and holy shit, everything falls apart. Couple of drinks, takeaway dinner, a treat yourself moment that turns into an all-out collapse of all structure. Then suddenly it's Sunday, you're bloated as shit, super duper tired. Maisie's saying, guilty. Eating rubbish, bloated. Monday feels like absolute shit. If your Mondays feel like shit, 95% this is you. The weekend hero doesn't realize, they just don't get it, that you can undo 5 days of solid, consistent work in 2 meals. How would you do that? Well, maybe on Saturday night, you decided to have a big ass carbonara pasta, right? It's got all the pasta, it's got all the white sauce, it's got all the veggies, and then a bottle of wine with it. And there is 3,000 calories in that one meal. And then we go over to Sunday and we've got, fuck, babe, I don't feel like cooking. I'm just going to get a pizza in. I don't know about you, but I'm eating the whole pizza. Personally, I'm eating the whole pizza. 1,600 calories. I've undone all my deficit of 200 to 300 calories Monday to Friday. I've undone them with one meal. They think the weekends don't count. And they say, I'm doing everything right, Jace, but the weight's not moving. I'm not fucking sure what's going on. What did you do on the weekend? I had this. Dude, do you have any calorie awareness of what is in that? This is where when you start tracking with something like MyFitnessPal, you start to go, oh shit. Now you don't need to cut it all out. But when you start to realize, oh, I need to budget for these things, that's when you start to move. So why do they stay stuck? They don't have a weekend plan. The weekdays have structure, the weekends are chaos. And so you can't be consistent if you keep changing. I always say, consistency beats intensity. Consistency beats intensity. So if you're intense during the week and inconsistent on the weekends, you're blowing both rules. You're not only intense when you shouldn't be and inconsistent when you should be. So what's the fix? You got to have a weekend structure and you got to keep it really, really simple. I'll just give you 3 rules that I try to apply for the weekends, which keep it easy, right? Have a high protein breakfast every single morning. Have a high protein breakfast. Why? It's going to set you up to feel satiated and full. Simple, non-negotiable. Whether you're drinking that night or whatever, you must have a high protein breakfast. Number 2, you got to set a drinking limit, right? You got to set a drinking limit and you got to set it before the first drink. You can't set it midway through or after it, because if you don't commit to what you're going to drink beforehand and you try to do that afterhand, the chances of you stopping when things are getting juicy, just no chance. And then you'll regret it after it, right? We know that. Number 3, on the weekend, just do one structured activity, some structured piece of exercise for an hour, right? It could be a walk, a gym session, a bike ride, a hike, a swim, whatever. Just something that anchors that day and makes you feel like, even if you did have a little bit of extra food that night, not a problem. I anchored the day to something strong and powerful that kept me moving. Just these 3 things prevent the entire weekend avalanche, because weekends don't have to be perfect, but they do have to be intentional in some way. Now, I've got this really strong opinion on this one, the weekend warrior. Let me know if that's you in the comments. Let me know if that's you. Are you the weekend warrior? If this is you, let me ask you some questions, right? And I'm again, please understand that I'm not trying to say this from a I'm better than you perspective, because I'm not. I went through this and I was doing this a lot. Let me ask you a question. Is drinking actually making you happy? Is drinking making you happy? If it is, fucking all power to you. Is it making you happy? Is staying up late until 11 p.m., 12 p.m. actually making you happy? Is eating a greasy pizza actually making you happy? Especially when you could cook a beautiful one at home with a third of the calories and triple the protein that would actually make you feel good. Why is it that you feel that you need to do this? If it's in direct compromise of your goals, in other words, I want to look a certain way, I want to feel a certain way, I'm sick of being this way, but I keep doing things that self-sabotage, that doesn't make sense. Why are you doing things that self-sabotage when you actually just like step back from it? I've got these goals. I tell everyone that I want to do this, and I tell myself that I'm annoyed that I don't do. I want to do this. Why do you keep doing things that are opposite to that? I think, is it because you feel like okay, Maisie says reward after a heavy week. Bang on, bro. I was exactly the same. I've earned this. What have you actually earned? You've earned your own allowance to sacrifice. I've earned this, so now I can sacrifice on my goals. Like, is that like permission to sacrifice your own goals? Is that, or is it because you feel like you need to live a little? Is it because you feel like your life is otherwise just a little bit boring? That's how I felt. My life was just otherwise a little bit boring. And if that's the case, how can you spice things up a bit? How can you spice things up a bit? So rather than trying to get all of your enjoyment through pizza and KFC and alcohol, why not ask yourself a big, big question? fuck, we're getting deep here. What do I actually want with my life? Food is so much more than just like putting something in your mouth. It's psychological. If the answer for you is, I want KFC at 11 p.m. with 2 bottles of wine, fucking awesome. All power to you. I'm not telling you that it shouldn't be. But a personal anecdote for me is that for a period of my life, that's what I did. And the only thing that happened was that I got more frustrated, I dug a deeper hole, and I started to resent everything even more. And it wasn't until I looked towards the sources of enjoyment that took me closer to my life goals that things actually started to change. And I realized, personally, I'm not saying that you will enjoy or should do the same things, but this was internal to me. I realized that sitting on a beach in Sydney, in Coogee, watching a sunrise at 5 a.m. and I'm not meditating or crossing legs or any of that shit. I'm just sitting there with a beautiful takeaway coffee with my wife was far better for my mental and physical health than 2 bottles of wine and a bag at 2 a.m. So if you're trapped in that kind of thing where you're like literally just, why do I keep sabotaging my goals? Perhaps it's because you're not really sure what you actually want. And so it's hard to be excited or committed to something when you're just like, fuck, I don't even like, I just need to enjoy something. And there's nothing better than if that's the state you're in to just go, fuck, I'll get drunk. Because let's face it, being drunk's fun in the moment, but real shit later on. As we wrap this up, every parent who's listening to this right now fits in or will recognize that they have traits of one of the things that we talked about, one of the 4 types that we talked about: the all or nothing parent, the overwhelmed achiever, the invisible martyr, or the weekend hero. And for some of you, it'll be a mix. For some of you, it'll be one specific one. But here's the point. Patterns are not permanent. They're just habits. A pattern is just a habit that you've formed because you've slipped into a certain way of doing things. It's a habit, and habits can be broken and rebuilt and reshaped. The moment you can point at the pattern. Now, I've got some criticism on this before, but I'm just going to be honest with you to tell you what I experienced. I realized that in my life, I kept dating women who were from single parent households. I'm not criticizing single parent households, but I noticed that what was happening was I had a pattern where I was the dad in the relationship as opposed to the equal and the partner. And I realized that that pattern was not working for me. They were getting 2 years into the relationship and all of a sudden having a personality crisis because I'm now their dad instead of their partner. And that's not good in a relationship, is it? But the point is, I was able to see the pattern. So if you can become aware of the pattern, you can then change the pattern. Your pattern might be, he's right about the weekend thing. That's exactly what I do. Okay, now that you know that, you become consciously aware of it, you need a plan for the weekend and reverse engineer from there. If your pattern is every time I eat low calories, like super low calories, I get hungry and then rebound with a massive binge, then that's the pattern. So now that you know the pattern, how can you fix the pattern? You can only fix it when you become aware of it. And this podcast was aimed at trying to bring some exposure to the actual pattern that you might be in. Guys, this has been the Better Body Academy podcast, coming to you for another episode. If you enjoyed the episode and you would love to continue on and listen to a few more, you can go over to any podcast player, search for Better Body Academy podcast, and get the episodes there. Over 430 episodes. Peace out. I'll see you in the next one. Maisie, what's going on, brother? Thanks for your commentary throughout the podcast. So Friday afternoon box of beer, again, totally relate to that, right? So here is what I did personally. And I'm not saying you need to give up alcohol. There's a few levels to this. You can go to lower or mid-strength or lower alcohol if you want. You can cut down to lower carb alcohol. Here's what I did. I realized that actually doing this is what I love, right? It's doing this is what I love. It's the act of down tools, right? Let's put the tools away. The day's over. Friday's over. Let's have a beer. Guess what? What is in that beer? You don't have to drink supers, high carb, high calorie beers. What I did is firstly started to choose lower carb beers. I went from Coronas, as an example, 150 calories, to in Australia, Burley Big Heads, which are 89 or 88 calories. So I halved the calories. Same act, right? Then what was happening is I cut the calories in half, perfect, but I was still feeling shitty because I'm tired, I don't sleep well. And so what I then did was like go down to a lower calorie beer. So I got the better beers in a lower carb version. I think it was like 68 calories and got down. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm not enjoying this any less than super beers at 150 calories. So what happens if I just go down to like no alcohol beer and low carb beer? So now every single night almost, I drink 2 or 3 beers that are 0 alcohol, 0 carbs. They're 10 calories, but it's the same ritual. Oh, fuck, that was a busy day. I earned it. Oh, I need to zone out for a little bit before I go to sleep. Drink 2 beers. Damage, total, 20 calories. That's nothing. That's like having a water with some electrolytes in it. Some food for thought, if it is a thing for you. All right. So what else have we got? Any kind of questions or comments that I need to? I did before BBA. Yeah. Overwhelmed achiever here. Angel says you got it. That was me before. Overwhelmed achiever. That's me. Same thing every day. Vicky says. If you're wondering where I'm reading this from our client group, guys. That's me. This is me. The thing I missed most about being in America was good whole foods. I feel like my whole body reacts badly to shitty burgers and pizza or fatty foods. Felt shit for days and hate that feeling. I think it's actually good, Says, when you actually get a chance to realize that, because for someone like you who, all good, bro, someone like you who doesn't have a lot of weight to lose, Sarah, like really not that much, right? If the metric that you're thinking about is, well, my weight, it's almost like borderline irrelevant to you. But by moving to a whole food eating plan, what's happened is you've effectively conditioned yourself to eat in a better way. And then when you go back to doing what you did before, you're like, oh, shit, that doesn't make me feel good, right? And so you've found a pattern. Kerry says, great podcast. Thanks, Kez. I appreciate you, mate. Angel says, thanks, Jace. I think this is the first live I've managed to get to. I loved it. Good takeaways. I'm definitely the overwhelmed achiever and maybe a little bit of the all or nothing mixed in. That's me as well. Totally. Hey, Sue. But then you're drinking your calories and it doesn't seem worth it. Yeah, that's it, Mel. Like, and again, perhaps one of the things that helped me to kind of remove most of the alcohol. I still enjoy a wine every now and then and a beer, like 100%. But one of the things is that I watched my wife just basically got pregnant with our first kid and then just didn't pick up another drink again. And that was about 6 years ago. And it's kind of like, oh, I'm sitting here having a wine by myself. It's pretty boring. Yeah. And then you start to go, well, fuck, man, like I could eat chocolate or I could eat a big pizza or whatever it is that you would prefer to eat that's not wine. Seeing patterns and change, that is really powerful, brings calmness inside. Yeah, and you're a master at this, Madalena. You've become that. Okay, so just making sure. Hey, Grant, how are you, buddy? Tarina's in the house. All right, team, I'm going to love you and leave you there. Hopefully this episode was helpful. And again, if you want any more episodes or you're not in our academy and you want to get involved, just shoot me a message and we'll go from there. All right, peace, team. Have a lovely, lovely afternoon, evening, or morning. See ya.